Good morning, my love muffins. Reverend Sue from All Paths to God, recording live from my living room. Know the truth? I heard you. And the truth shall set us free. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, said, first, on our journey to discover God and to know the truth, we are compelled to think of God as either a part of us or apart from us. A part of us or apart from us. And if God is a part of us, which we believe God is, if God is a part of us, then we are a part of the divine creator, of the creative process of all of creation, which means that humanity is the vehicle for divinity, for the expression of God in this worldly place. And the nature of God, the love and law of God, flows to us and through us and as us. And our consciousness creates, because we are part of the one mind. Know the truth, and the truth shall set us free. So if we're not free, we don't know the truth. We are not speaking the truth. We are not thinking the truth. We are not determining our actions based on the truth. Now, spiritually speaking, we talk the truth of God and grace and good in our lives. We talk the truth of peace and harmony and unity and oneness and love as the truth of who we are. But worldly speaking, meaning how do we speak out in our world as we interact with our day-to-day events, we often talk about being disgruntled. We talk about discord and disharmony. We talk about distress. Thus, we often don't see evidence of the goodness and grace of God flowing through us because, well, we're looking elsewhere. We're looking at untruths. It doesn't make us not believe. It's not principle that has failed any test. It's us. We failed in our application of truth. That's what we end up believing once we've accepted this particular thought system. We recognize that we're stuck many times in a thought habit box. And it's often hard, as the saying goes, to think outside of the box, especially when we are confronted with and challenged by life circumstances that are creating reactionary feelings in us that are so negative and limited in nature. And at this particular time, politics and the election couldn't serve as a better example. Despite our expansive and inclusive, loving, spiritual beliefs, we can't seem to rise above our small talk. We are stuck in this box of limited, judgmental thinking and inflammatory, oftentimes hate talk. It's like we've totally lost our minds or lost our ability to control our minds, to direct our minds, despite the fact that we believe consciousness creates and we believe in the goodness and the grace of God in everyone and everything. Now, I'm not suggesting that anyone deny their thoughts and their concerns and their worries and their fears and their anger, and that wouldn't do any good. That would actually do more damage. But what I am recommending is that we remember the big picture. We remember the truth of who we are. We remember who and how we want to show up in this world. We remember that the world is not the boss of us. The world is our place to express the divinity of God flowing through us at all times, regardless of the circumstances. The world is not the boss of us. It's like, I remember I've shared this before, the idea of square watermelons. I don't know if you've ever seen that or heard of that, but someone actually had the notion that it would be a good idea if watermelons were square because, well, they'd more easily fit into the refrigerator. So as the watermelons were growing, they put them into a square box so that rather than following their natural tendency to take on an oval shape, they were actually forced to conform to their external environment and to take on the shape of a square. Don't these pictures look rather strange to see a watermelon looking square? Well, since I'm on a watermelon roll, I'll share another story. There was a farmer who had a crop of watermelons, and he was frustrated because people kept sneaking into his field and swiping them. And it was depleting his crop. And so he made a plan to stop them from stealing. So he posted a sign in the middle of the watermelon patch that said, "One of these watermelons is poisonous." Well, sure enough, it worked because the watermelons stopped disappearing. And they all grew to fruition, and it was time to go to harvest, and he had a full crop. And when he went out to gather them, he noticed the sign in the middle of the field, and instead of saying one of these watermelons is poisonous, the one was crossed out and it said 2 of these watermelons are poisonous. We don't make positive changes in our lives or in our world by letting someone else's negative box determine how we're going to think and feel and act. That's being a square watermelon. We can only change for the better by thinking outside of the box, outside of our box if it's limited in thinking, outside of their box if it's the environment external to us that is thinking in terms that are less than the truth of who we are. And unlike the choiceless, helpless watermelon that had to conform, we get to make decisions about how we think. We do have a choice. We don't have to take the shape of our environment. We can think outside the box. We don't have to take on the words and the behaviors and the hate and the antagonism that we see expressed in our world. We can determine our own values and our own vision, our own expectations, and our own planting of new ideas. If we choose to stay in our old limited habit thinking boxes, or we choose to lower ourselves to allow their limited negative box to determine how we think and feel and act, ultimately we relinquish our right to choose higher possibilities. We relinquish our ability, we relinquish our connection with the power, the law that outpictures in such a way that we compromise our own ability to rise above our current circumstances because we are actively choosing not to cooperate with our nature and with the very law of our being. Know the truth, and the truth shall set us free. So we have to dare to believe, because every day, whether we know it or not, whether we believe it or not, whether we accept it or not, whether we like it or not, we are making choices for our future selves, for our unfolding world. The majority of the time, we're not even aware that we're doing this. We're making life-altering choices, and we're not even cognizant that we're doing it throughout our day, because most of the decisions we make seem hardly significant. But all of our choices are vitally important. There is no such thing as a small, insignificant choice when it comes to consciousness, because the collective theme, the collective vibrational energy of the sum of our choices translates into the big picture. It translates into the picture of our lives and our communities and our world. We all make a contribution to that. We cannot be in a negative box with other thoughts and feelings and behaviors of people that were opposed to their stance and do anything but contribute, just like the watermelon patch, to a positive change in our life circumstances. Our choices are like pixels in a photograph, in a picture. In the big picture, in the whole complete picture, there's millions of little teeny pixels that make up that picture, little dots. The word pixel means a picture element. They are the smallest unit of information that makes up a picture. If you zoom in far enough on a picture, like the one you see on the screen, we'll see small squares of various colors. Each individual square is a pixel, and each pixel serves as a building block in the big picture. Every pixel matters in forming the picture. Every pixel is significant to the quality and the goal, the desire of the final big picture. Those pixels have to be aligned with what we want, where it will compromise the out picture. You can see on the screen, there's a picture that I use on the Facebook page when people post and where I post my messages. I changed a handful of pixels. You can see that it compromised the big picture. That's certainly not the picture I desire. We are pixels in the big picture of the unfoldment of our world affairs, of our politics, of our economics, of our health, of our relationships. We are significant, each and every one of us, and every single choice we make. We can't put on this spiritual hat, this hat of truth, but because this area, this theme, this current event that's going on agitates us so much, well, during that, we can jump into the box and allow it to conform the way we think, the way we feel, the way we talk, the way we act, and still talk about being spiritual and promoting love and oneness and unity. It's an impossibility. And for those of us that have faith in this belief system, we lead by example, not by our opinion. Our discussing and describing this belief system is not what changes our circumstances for the better. Our constantly being vigilant that we align our thoughts, our words, our actions based on our deliberate choices. Our vision of the big picture is what is essential in changing our world for the better. If we want the world to be a better place, I heard you, we have to be a better person in it. Meaning we have to be more closely aligned with the truth of who we are. Our thoughts and our words and our attitudes and our actions need to be aligned with the big picture that we desire, with our hopes, with our beliefs, with our visions, with our spiritual expectations and standards, especially during challenging times. Because if they are determined by our circumstances, by our conditions, by our environments, by the thought and talk, culture and climate of any particular challenging time, then we're stuck in this box of limitation and relinquish that potential of grace and God and goodness to flow through us in increasing ways. We cannot allow worldly affairs to determine how we think and feel and act, or we will be just like the watermelons, which, by the way, those watermelons, none of them ever came to fruition that they can be used for the God-intended purpose and eaten. There's some deformity that happens on the inside of them. So they actually are sold as exotic plants for like $100 a watermelon, but not for their original intention. And we can't be used for our original intention when we are conforming to a box of limited thinking, feeling, and acting. Sure gives a completely different meaning to the thinking outside the box, doesn't it? There was a story about a farmer who was sitting on the steps of his old dilapidated shack, and a stranger passing by asked him, "How's your cotton growing?" And the farmer said, "Ain't got none, didn't plant none, afraid of the boll weevils." Well, the stranger said, "How's your corn coming along?" "Didn't plant none," farmer said, "afraid of drought." "Well, how about your potatoes?" the visitor asked. "Ain't got none, scared of the tater bugs." Finally, the stranger asked, "Well, what did you plant?" "Nothing," the farmer said. "I just played it safe." Don't play it safe, my pixels. Dare to plant seeds of peace and love and harmony and unity, despite what's going on in the world around us. Even if we're afraid that something in our environment is going to attack those ideas and possibly stunt their growth or try to stop their growth. For sure, if we plant nothing, what we really want has no chance of unfolding. It has no hope of growing in our circumstances. That's the law of God. And we can't alter God to fit us. We have to alter us to fit the law of God, because that's the truth of who we are, because God is a part of us. So your mission, my most vital love muffin pixels, is, especially during these most challenging times, and especially as we approach the next 30 days of this election process and whatever is going to unfold after that, realize your absolute significance in the big picture. Think, feel, act, plant seeds outside of the limited box. Definitely outside of the box of those very people or circumstances to which you take great offense, to which you are opposed. We cannot get in the box with that type of belief system, that type of feeling, vibration, that type of activity, and raise our circumstances. We have to stop seeing the world of affairs as our reality, as our fate. And instead, we have to see truth as our potential. The world of affairs is just a reflection of our history. It's not who we are, it's who we used to be. It's a reflection of our consciousness in the past. And our lives are not determined by the past. They are governed by the present. They are governed by this moment, here and now, this pixel in the big picture. And they have unlimited promise for the future. This is the wonder of an infinitely loving creator. And this is the assurance of an exacting law of consciousness creates and thoughts are things. And this is the gift of free will. Unlike the watermelon, we have the choice. As the saying goes, my friends, we are God's very best chance at the human race. So think outside the box. Every thought is vital. Every thought is a pixel that contributes to the big picture. Think outside the box. We are the people. Now is the time, and this is the way. Namaste, my friends. Namaste.